welcome back to another episode. And just before we get into another belter lineup with some amazing guests this week, I have a few caveats. We got some new mics. One of them didn't work. We had to negotiate around it. So I just want to give you a heads up. The audio is good. It is audible. We've put a lot of work into this. When I say we, I mean my videographer, my audio guys put a lot of work into this. It was one of those things that if technology goes wrong, it usually will. We did have some backup mics though, as always. We learned that in the early days. But yeah, we were quite disappointed that one of the mics failed. However, please bear with us. There are parts where the volume will undulate or my audio might be better in certain points, and then obviously Kate and Zoe's, etc. It will fluctuate, but again, it is very audible. I just want to give you the caveat because I like the audio to be crisp these days. We will be getting that bang on in future, but we did this one in person, and again, we had the new mics, and one of them, lo and behold, the best mic, didn't actually come through. So caveat on this one, guys, hang tight, really appreciate it, and we'll make sure we have crispy audio going forward. And yes, we have upgraded mics, so it should be even better in your ear holes. All right, that's enough of that, guys. As always, the show must go on, and you are gonna really love this episode. It is a very popular topic here at the moment and probably in the world, and it's gonna ruffle a few feathers, and it's probably gonna get you some education or some insights from a perspective that you may have not been able to interpret before, especially if you are a female listener. And flip side of that, being a male listener, I'd love your opinion on this too. So drop us a comment, make sure to subscribe, and of course leave a rating and a review. All right, enjoy. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fearless Training Raw Knowledge Podcast with your host, as ever, myself, Alex Connor. And today, we're in person. We're in a beautiful location with two beautiful ladies who make people look even more beautiful. We're at That Face Place. And today, I've got joining me Kate and Zoe. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, ladies.
Thank you. Hi, Alex.
Well, I was going to say, of course you're going to be here because this is your place. So
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for reserving the time.
Thanks for coming.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. Now, to set the scene, as we always do, could you tell us specifically who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why? You can take your time, one at a time, just to kind of set the scene for people. I know there's a few people that I'd probably already know by the name and the title, but just give us a bit of a brief rundown, please.
So That Face Place was started just a little over 6 months ago by Kate and I, and we are both cosmetic injectors, and we started this space because we wanted to do something different that is done in the industry. We wanted to purely do an injectable clinic that is for all people, male, female, all demographics, and really stay in our lane of injectables.
And how did you get into the industry? Like, what was your did you fall into it?
I used to work for Laser Clinics Australia, and I knew people within head office, and I got into the training school basically through someone that I knew in the head office, but I was a registered nurse beforehand. Yeah.
There we go.
Basically, was my journey.
And my journey was a little bit different. I started working for a plastic surgeon in Sydney. Joined him when he was just setting up his private practice. He was a plastic surgeon I had worked with previously in a hospital setting, and I joined him back in 2008, and he trained me up to be a cosmetic injector.
There you go.
Yeah, love that.
So it was sort of like something that was along the path and then it intertwined. How did you both meet?
So we met back in Sydney
2014.
when Zoe was training when she was training to be an injector. We crossed paths then.
Back in Bondi, 2014, I think it was, 2013.
Yeah. And you both got on. There was a bit of a spark.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we just
we were. I guess I guess we didn't know what we know now. If you know what I mean.
I don't know the female word for bromance, so I don't just obviously you stayed in touch, and then how did it transpire to starting a business together?
So we basically job shared for
in our previous role.
Yeah, for a few years, maybe like 3 years. And then I said to Kate, I'm leaving. I'd already set up like a behind the scenes and like a website and stuff, and then I went and actually was getting some filler with Kate just after lockdown, and I was telling Kate what I was doing behind the scenes, and she said, well, 2 heads are better than 1. What are your thoughts? And there was no hesitation. It just rolled out from then on. I think it was literally a week later, I went over to Kate's house and we mapped it out on her floor with a little baby next to us, and it was raining outside, and that face place was born. Literally.
There you
like
go.
That.
Just bang.
Never on the floor. Yeah, it just
cute.
happened.
Well, that's it, and this is why I like to ask these questions, because people always. It's like if you meet someone, they always assume that's the way you've always looked, right? But they don't know like your past and how it started, or maybe where you've come from or what you've done. And it's important to kind of get the story behind the business or the people, I think, because people can connect with it. And sometimes they're really interesting stories, or they're just simple things. Like again, designing a business on a floor on a rainy day in COVID, and now we're here.
Yeah.
And I think it shows people that it doesn't have to be this big sort of grandiose journey or necessarily like light bulb moment. Sometimes you can just, be catching up with a friend and you have a couple of ideas and it goes from there.
I think Kate and I both respect each other from like a work point of view. That's like, you're not going to go out into business where you don't feel that what they do from a work point of view you value. Like I knew how Kate worked. She knew how I worked. I valued what she does. She treats the same way I do, and that gets onto that point of not overfilling or not doing too much work. We both have the same sort of values in that field, and we're not because we job shared, we'd always respected each other. We'd never. Injectors have very different relationships with each other because essentially we're sales, and some injectors will throw another injector under a bus, and we never had that relationship. We always did respect one another, and I think that shows on how and why we did the business together.
Yeah, well, you do bounce off each other well, though, because you've got like different energies. Zoe, you seem to be more like just me. You like you're an energizer bunny, where Kate's more like relaxed and reserved. And just very calculated. They usually are. It's the quiet ones you've got to watch for.
Yeah, she is. She's fiery. But I think how I feel 6 months down the track of having the business is that we complement each other really well. What Kate's strengths are my weaknesses. She's really good at Excel spreadsheets. She's figures. She's numbers. She loves that. I'm not Excel spreadsheets, but in a business you need that.
You do.
You need to know the figures. I just glaze over them, and I guess I like the people side and that sort of stuff. So yeah, we complement each other well, I think.
It is important to have that, I think, with a business partner. Like if you can get someone that outweighs your weaknesses but complements your strengths and vice versa, you're stronger together. You can cover a bigger scope. And I want to get into some more specifics, and I want to set some definitions for the listeners, because I know they're going to be perhaps across, but maybe not across everything. And if we sort of set something up, that'd be great. But before we just get into that, I want to digress slightly, and I want to talk about the name. How did you come up with the name? Was it simple? Was it easy? Was it off the cuff? Because it is a great name. Like, it's simple, but it's like that face. Like, it works. And I'm surprised that was not taken.
So was I, yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't actually, I feel like it was a little bit off the cuff. Weren't we just throwing out names?
It kind of evolved. Like,
we knew we wanted something with face in it.
And
we? That was the one thing
we didn't want our names in it.
Yeah.
And we were always like, well, you know, when you go and get your face done at that face place, you know. And we're like, oh, yeah, well, that's a bit of a pun on words.
Yeah.
And we thought of the face place.
Yeah.
And then it kind of evolved into that face place.
I wish it was a better story, but I feel like that was on the floor as well.
It was on the floor.
See, it was on the floor. Did you guys ever see the advert
It was for, I think it was a Kiwi advert, but I think it came over. It was for Sky, and they basically, the scene was there was a couple of guys in there, and he goes, look, we're gonna live 2 guys in an apartment. We're gonna put everything on the floor because we'll always know where it is. And then it sort of fast forwards, and they're in the dark, and he's going, oh, he goes, oh, where's the light? He goes, on the floor. And he's like, oh, where's my glasses? On the floor. It was just, you know what I mean? So it's almost like the ideas were on the floor, but I know with these things as well, sometimes a play on words is great because it's like, you know, oh, you like that thingy my bob or whatever it is, but then that becomes a branded name and word, and it's like that slogan. So I do think it's really good. Going back to my line of inquiry earlier is, let's set the scene for what a cosmetic injectable specialist does, practitioner, cosmetic nurse, scope of practice, qualifications needed, and all the procedures that you do. Because, I mean, look, as a man looking in and perhaps being a modern male and understanding a little bit of it and, you know, using some of these services and understanding it from one perspective, there's a lot of, for example, you've got eyebrow tattooing now, right? You've got the lip tattooing, etc. You've got the injectables. You've got then other different cosmetic procedures. Like, there's obviously a lot of people in your space. Where are you, just to kind of paint that picture, and what is your scope, sort of your main, I guess, skill sets, if you will?
So we are medical professionals. You in Australia, you must be a medical professional, either a registered nurse or a medical doctor, to perform the treatments that we perform. So that would, I guess, be the main difference.
Sets us apart from
Get like a Landy.
So degree qualified. The treatments that we perform, so Botox, botulinum toxin, muscle relaxants, dermal filler, fat dissolving injections. What else do we do? They're the main ones. Like, we also sort of do some corrective work with correcting other, like, filler gone wrong, if you will. And most recently, vitamin injections too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do we...
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Right, I see.
Vitamin B12 boost injections.
Oh, hang on a minute. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
What's this going to do for me?
Well, B12 is something that we don't hold in our system, and we have to replace it through food. And with today's lifestyle, no one is eating enough of those nutrient-rich foods because we live this crazy, busy lifestyle. So people are depleted. So they're lethargic, can't sleep properly, irritable, depression, low in energy, memory. So a B12 injection can replace that.
I can see how that could actually catch on as well, based on, you know, because people are always looking for, like, supplementations, vitamins, bananas, good source of B12, just saying, as well, you know. So let's talk about some of the biggest misconceptions in the industry, because there is a lot. Now, well placed as well, Kate. We're in Australia, obviously, but still, for people who listen internationally, the Gold Coast is a beautiful location. It's flawless. People come here to be seen. We like to look good. We're half naked a lot of the time. Aesthetics is huge.
Aesthetics are life.
They are. Now, how do you go in this industry where we've got, I mean, I know you probably know a lot of the, you know, cosmetic, injectable nurses, doctors, and you sort of mentioned before how you like to stay ethical, and I really respect that, you know, like, you don't like to badmouth people, you like to sort of lead by example in that space, and you were telling us before, like, what you stand for. What are some of the biggest misconceptions when people come to you as a client that they have about the experience or about cosmetic injectables, and then we'll sort of move on from some others from a different standpoint?
There's a few. I think the biggest one that's trending at the moment that Kate and I are noticing really ramp up is a lot of the misconception being that it was only really for women, and women of a particular age, where they're really young for lips and really old for the whole face. Well, we're just seeing so many more guys, and guys are like the younger, sort of in their 20s guys, and the more mature man as well, and we're loving that. Like, it's, why can't guys get this too? And I think that where we're educating guys is that we can inject you in a way that won't feminize you. It will give you a nice, softer appearance, take away some of that tiredness, or and subtly treat you with dermal filler or anti-wrinkle. I think that's the biggest thing, that trend that we're seeing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I love the name Anti-Wrinkle as well. It's great. And that's how me and Kate met, actually, isn't it? Because it was a friend of mine she owns the Helensvale laser clinics. And I've been getting laser there for a while, and we met back when I was at Nike, and I looked after her, and she said, hey, if you want laser. So I did. And her husband, who was someone that I never thought, because they were very much against people going over the top with things. And that's one of the reasons why I got on with Megan, because I knew she was more like about authenticity and complimenting rather than just sort of like selling people things and making them look, a bit too extra, as the kids say. So he said to me one day, he was there, and he's like, hi, and he sort of flies in and out from Sydney. He's like, Alex, you ever thought about like getting some, Botox? And I was like, what? And he's like, trust me. He's like, I've had it for years. And I was like, oh, like, I wouldn't even know. He's like, yeah, you don't have to like get too much, but literally you can take those lines away. Yeah. So I did, and I messaged a friend in the industry, and she referred someone, and it wasn't brilliant, but God bless her, I think she was still young and inexperienced. And then I was like, I want to fix this, but I couldn't get back to Helensvale or anywhere, because it wasn't at Helensvale, it was somewhere else, to go. And then I walked into Rabina, and Kate was there, and that is why I'm here today, because Kate did a really good job. She looked after me, made me feel comfortable, and she rectified the situation.
And the relationship's born.
It was.
Yeah.
And I trusted Kate, and I thought, well, for me, I'm really big on like someone delivering, but also like someone caring. After speaking to a few cosmetic injectable specialists, Kate was like, actually showed some interest. And I was like, well, that's great. And I'm like, well, she's done a great job. She delivered. And now I'm going to go back to Kate because she's done exactly what I wanted. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Yeah. And then, she told me, well, actually, we're starting this thing called That Face Place. And I was just like, right, I will come there. And and that's kind of how it is. And I think like word of mouth is the best with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of thing. What is your standpoint now on people who go too far, and how would you define too far? Because it's very subjective. From what we see on social media. And this is really going to transcend into a few very thought-provoking conversations here, but let's just start with that.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, really. Kate and I have talked about this, haven't we?
Yeah, there's sort of a bell curve, I suppose, though, because there's what the majority of the population thinks looks good. Like there's what the majority of the population thinks looks good, which is probably what we also think looks good. But then, of course, you've got people who, like, and we see clients who are the other way, who think that, like, they look better with absolutely having had absolutely nothing done. And then you've got people who think they look awesome with far too much. I don't know.
It's a tough one. I think our standpoint is that we educate people. I think there's... the face has its natural harmony. Now, when someone comes in to me that, in my opinion, has over-injected their lips, I always say to someone, your eye is where we talk to. Like, humans don't talk to someone's lips. We don't look at someone's lips. We talk to someone's eyes. So the facial harmony is all about keeping the lips in harmony with the face. As soon as you start to over-inject the lips and the lips have overtaken the eyes, so the first thing you look at is the lips, not the eyes, then you've done a bad job. That's my opinion. That's what I say to people. I'm like, you keep the lips in harmony with your eyes and with your face. You don't want to be known as that woman or that girl when you walk into a bar and everyone looks straight at her lips, not her eyes.
It's a side profile.
Yeah.
I love what you said there. One, education, because I'm really passionate about that myself, and I think we need more of it, because I think education underlies the action that then precedes it, or then continues on from it, I should say, for lack of better words. And it sort of sets you up to be able to communicate perhaps better with the client. And the second thing is, I love the metaphor that you used, because it's a very positive place you're coming from, rather than saying, hey, this doesn't look good or this is wrong. It's no. Instead of the negative, here's the positive, and this is, the art, if you like, or the essence behind it, which I think is really important. Yeah. Which kind of led me on to asking, as a professional, you are there to administer. What's the limit of saying, no, this is too much because it's dangerous? Or how then, which you've already kind of answered there, Zoe, and I'd love to get your perspective, Kate, sort of maybe guide people more in that way, where you go, well, this is our organisation, people might tag us in, this is our work, we take photos before and afters. I know as a practitioner myself, when I work with a client, I want them to be the best reflection of my business. It doesn't mean they have to get rapid results, but it means I want them to conduct themselves in a certain way, and the results I get are going to show that, because people are going to ask who you train with. And I imagine sometimes it can be the same for you. You want to make sure you do a great job for people, because they're going to showcase and they're going to talk about that. So how do you go about facilitating those conversations with people?
So, like, one of the main tools that I use is taking photographs of people's profiles. Instagram and just the way society is these days, a lot of these women look at themselves purely on a front-on angle. So some of them are completely oblivious to the fact that they don't look good from the side. So that's a tool that I'll often use, taking a side, like a photograph of them from their side profile and showing them, and then reviewing collectively how their profile looks. I generally find is quite good, because, as I say, sometimes just they're oblivious to the fact that their face is not in harmony, because all they care about is how they look in a selfie for Instagram. That's the only angle they're really taking into account.
Yeah, I like that. That's really great. So it's almost like showing the client and empowering them to make their own better decision by showing, hey, here's a third perspective you've not metaphorically and literally seen of yourself. Yeah, I think that's great, Kate. I like that.
I think also people come in and they want to get something done, and they want to get perhaps fillers done, and they think only the lips is the only place to get treated.
Correct.
And by educating them that
The
chin is so important, and
cheeks.
chin and cheeks, and by educating them on side profile, lengthening a chin, how it feminizes, slims, brings that face back into harmony, and then there's a real aha moment in someone's head, because they're like, oh, I thought it just went in the lips, and people just go lips.
Exactly. There's been a huge, there's been a huge push on lips for years now. It's been just all about lips.
So it's again educating.
Yeah.
And that's what our Instagram is really, we're trying to really push, is educating about the other areas and who's suitable for that other area and why.
Yeah, it gives context and perspective, because you're right, if you don't know what you don't know, and a lot of the time sometimes you just see one very prominent part where it's like lips on a face, and you're like, oh wow, it's not balanced.
Or it's the age old, you've had, the girls have had, the young girls
I have a bike.
The young girls come, that's their first introduction, because and then it's like anything, they have a little bit and they think, oh, I look better with a little bit of lip filler, so if I have more lip filler, I'm going to look better. And of course that's not always the case. But it's, lack of education, hugely.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast, it was a couple of years ago now. There's a famous surgeon, and he's very famous for facelifting people. And there's ratios, and I don't think there was something on Instagram as well. It was a certain ratio you can do with everyone's face.
Yeah, 1 to 1.618 or something. Yeah.
And it was something like that, but he sort of went this extra mile, and he knew that there was a certain measurement from the eyes, from the nose, and he sort of said, well, if you see a star sometimes, like a celebrity, and he goes, and all of a sudden you see them, and you think, oh, they look dramatically better, and it's like, they lost weight, maybe they have, but there's something else, and he goes, and you never know. And this person that had gone to interview him, I think it was Tony Robbins at the time, he invited him into the surgery. He said, oh, come in, sort of suit up, or whatever they call it now, you're in your, what do you call them, scrub up and come in. And he says, and I'll finish this off and I'll show you what I'm doing. And he couldn't hack it, because he had this person's face literally peeled back to change all of this, and then puts it and just staples it on the hair, and you'd never know. But it was like, it's amazing how the ratios make such a difference.
Millimeters. A millimeter on a face makes a huge difference. Correct, yeah.
And I think that could be a lesson in life as well, like how sometimes small ripples can make big tidal waves, or like less is more.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of where you do it. And I guess injectables is the same with like placement, protocol, procedure. What about the chemicals that we're using? What do they do? Kate, you've told me about there's different brands and whatnot. I don't know technical terminologies and names, but what is it that we're putting into our face? How does it work? How does it react with the body? How is it metabolized? Talk to us a little bit about the science, because this is part of the education. I don't think people, just like when they're taking supplements out in my industry, or people who choose to take performance enhancing drugs, know the qualitative grade of what they're taking or how it actually affects the body. So I think this would be really good for the listeners, because I don't think many people would actually know, apart from the basic name and this is what it does and it makes my lips look good and then that's it. What is happening?
So we've got our two main products. Muscle relaxant, so botulinum toxin type A is the name of the product that we use. People know it as Botox, Dysport, Xeomin in Australia. There are three main brands. It's a neurotoxin, purified protein, which basically stops muscles firing, so stops the nerve message getting through to muscles. So we inject it strategically into facial muscles to weaken them temporarily, muscles of expression. So once we weaken the muscle, the skin over the top cannot fold and wrinkles can't form.
I think the important thing with that is that, yes, it's a toxin, but when we inject it, it's eliminated out of the body in 24 to 48 hours, and the protein is the only thing that stays. So the protein's the powerful piece, not the toxin.
That makes sense, because everything is like a toxin and a poison in its own right. But I guess, like you said, people focus on the toxin.
Well, it's actually a bacteria.
The body eradicates it.
But yeah. So I think that's the thing, that it doesn't stay in our body for the amount of time that the actual treatment lasts for. So it's not in our body for 3 months.
Yeah. So that initial, like you said, dosage is then excreted within like a 24, 48 hour window.
The toxin part of the protein is eliminated in 24 to 48 hours.
And then you get the positives, is it?
Correct.
Yeah. Is there any other, I guess, elements or risks that people are not aware of, apart from obviously when you do your contraindicative risk assessments? Is there anything else like that you would educate people on, that you think that a lot of, I guess, other practitioners in the industry have not told, or that it's a bit hush-hush? And
No, Botox is really, really relatively safe. Dermal filler is different, which we can discuss next. But the Botox is a very, really very safe. It's not, there's certain groups of people that we don't inject, so people with some pregnant women, breastfeeding women, people under the age of 18 we wouldn't inject, and people with some neurological disorders are also not appropriate to treat with toxin.
Right.
But it is largely, Botox has many, many uses medically, in the medical world as well. So I would say it's probably one of the most safe drugs that's available.
And the most research.
And the most research, correct, yeah.
Yeah, you told me some fun facts about it last time, actually. I can't recall, but it's used for different, I don't know if it was cerebral palsy or something.
There are many different things. So it's used, there's hundreds of indications for it medically. Cerebral palsy is one of the first ones that we always refer to, because it's, small children that have muscular contractures from cerebral palsy routinely have Botox injected into their contracted muscles. Like migraines, people with bladder spasms, eye disorders, blepharospasm, strabismus, which is like, cross-eyed type people can sometimes benefit from it. Many uses.
But it's been injected for medically for well over 50 years.
Yeah.
So the data's around that it's not toxic to the body.
Yeah, like there's been a lot of meta-analyses, and it's very well sort of, it's like the creatine of cosmetic world. It's the most backed up. Yeah, and it's great, and there's lots of benefits. Let's shift over, I guess, then to the dermal fillers.
Yes.
And I guess the differences apart from the aesthetics of it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what dermal filler is?
The dermal filler is essentially a manufactured sugary gel, so a manufactured hyaluronic acid.
Interesting.
And it comes in various different, it attracts...
Slightly different formulations.
Yeah. So some dermal fillers attract more water to give more volume, and others that attract far less. So depending on what area on the face that we're injecting, dermal filler, again, it's again very safe. when injected properly. There are some side effects to it, and obviously not everyone's suitable if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, la la la. But yeah, if you're with a practitioner that knows exactly what they're doing, it's safe. I mean, there are things that can go wrong, but if with someone that knows exactly what they're doing, they can manage that adverse event there and then with a product called Hyalase. So most fillers are dissolvable.
And when we're talking
Okay,
like...
I want to jump in there though.
For the purpose of what we do, there's many classes of dermal fillers. The ones that we use here are all hyaluronic acid fillers, so which means they are reversible. We're seeing, like, with more and more treatments happening worldwide, we're seeing more and more complications, I guess. So some countries are not as well regulated as Australia, and I guess we're just So basically, the most serious thing that can happen with dermal filler is that we accidentally inject into a blood vessel. If that happens, then obviously it causes a blockage of circulation to a part of your face. So if that is not if as practitioners, if we're aware that that's happened, then our protocol would normally be to pull out our Hyalase and dissolve the filler. In instances where that has not been able to happen, there's been cases where people's face has gone on to basically ulcerate, in worst case scenario, necrosis. So there's been cases of that.
Wow.
There's also been cases around the world, a handful of cases where people have gone blind from having dermal filler injected into a blood vessel that has caused a blockage to their eye, their retinal artery. So they're kind of the really scary, horrible things that we don't like to dwell on, but they're the realities of what, I guess when it...
It is extremely rare.
Yeah.
Is this obviously this is what you learn when you're studying, but when you're injecting, would you say it's a case of you have to really be quite negligent to get this wrong, or can you just be very unlucky as a practitioner to inject into a blood vessel?
Certainly both. I would definitely say both.
The best way that there's a little meme I've seen of their face being like a bowl of spaghetti.
Yeah.
How can we know exactly where everyone's major facial arteries are?
Yes.
That being said, using different tools like a cannula can minimise that risk dramatically, and certain products, like you wouldn't put cheek filler, for example, in your tear trough because it's not indicated for that area.
Right.
Now, Kate and I have seen that happen here on the Gold Coast. We've had to fix someone that came into this clinic that had cheek filler in her tear trough.
Where's the tear trough?
Right.
Tear trough, the underarm.
Right. So
So-
why would you inject in there to get away the bags?
You can inject in there, but the product that was used by a doctor was not indicated for that area.
Right.
So that I think knowing your products, knowing obviously the face, and using the right tools, and also having the Hyalase there are going to put you in good stead to minimise or manage if something was to go wrong. And having the right medical team behind you. Like, I've got Kate next door if something I need to ask her a question, and we've also got a really strong medical team that supports us. I think
I wanted to ask you about that as well, because you have to consult. I mean, when I first got
with the doctor,
diagnosed, they sort of, you ring them up and I'm dying from the same thing we all are. It's called aging. Surprise! I'm 30 this year, ladies, by the way.
Settle
Dirty
down.
30.
Settle down.
I know. I said I'm getting old today. My mate went mad. He goes, young. I said, yeah, but everyone older think young. No, I think prime's coming like 37.
Absolutely.
I reckon prime time.
Oh, gee.
Because I'll be like, more for a man,
Yeah, absolutely.
Women older, keep going. It's
Oh,
fine, right? You just get better with age, like a fine wine, really.
Absolutely.
It's just a number, isn't it?
Yeah,
to be honest.
absolutely.
But what's that procedure in place for, apart from health and safety? But because you're medical doctors or MDs, to a degree, or you've got the doctorate?
We're not doctors, no. So
Okay,
the vast majority of injectable clinics in Australia are run and led, basically.
Right.
So as registered nurses, we always in a hospital setting, in any setting, we work under the authority of a doctor. So in order to administer medication, Botox or filler, we need a valid prescription from a doctor. So we use telehealth to give our clients have a consultation with a doctor to obtain a prescription for us to do your treatment. So that's how it operates.
Yeah.
But because Kate and I know what you can and can't, we do a full screening on the medical registration.
That's right, yeah.
And if there are any red flags, we don't even need to go that far. We know what to look out for.
Sure.
It's a really nice insurance piece for both the client and for us. And if there is any questions down the track, we can always have that extra person to ask if there's an unusual thing that we need to ask the doctor.
It's like you said, it's having that team and that support in case you need it.
Always, yeah.
But like I said, if you do due diligence from the start, it's usually something where
Correct.
you go
Exactly,
straight ahead. That's a high risk client. No, we don't
Correct.
need that,
Yeah.
or we need to consult a physician first, or whatever
Yeah.
it might be. I've got questions about the filler. Now, obviously, as it suggests, it fills the space, right? But when you are filling the space, because I've seen some faces where I had no idea, and then another lady will say to me, "Oh, that's that, and that." And I'm like, "How do you know?" And they're like, "Because of this, this, and this." Or you would see prior pictures. I think I've seen some men who've had it done as well, because when you know what you're looking for, you know. But before that, and I'm like, "Wow, it really does fill the face out."
Yeah.
What is that the same with the Botox? Is it like a protein, you said? And how long does that last versus Botox?
So going back to how there are different types of filler, so they go in indicated for certain areas. So really common areas to treat is your cheeks, your chin, your jawline, your lips, your nasolabial folds, and your tear troughs and your temples. So all these areas have specific products that are indicated for that area. How long they last depend on what product you've used and how much. So for example, your cheeks, generally speaking, 18 months to 2 years. But it depends on what brand and what product you've used, and generally the dosing. Like if we're going to put a good decent amount, you're going to see it and it's going to last longer. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you've got like a thinner filler that is treated more superficially, so a little not as deep as say the cheek filler, and that doesn't last as long because we're treating fine lines and wrinkles in an area that might move a bit more, so it might wear down a little bit because of eating, drinking, talking, laughing, all that sort of stuff. So and then lips generally, I always say 6 months.
Yes. This is
Does
probably
that answer?
it
the
does.
question?
I'm
So
thinking
there's
now.
different fillers for different areas, depending on the
Hence
dosing.
why you said you've got to get it in the right place, because otherwise,
Yeah.
like you said with that lady that came in who had the wrong filler in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It didn't go too well. From speaking to your clients, what do you think the main reason, apart from aesthetics, or the actual root causes, why females feel the need to be able to do these things, these cosmetic injectables? Do they feel that they have to look a certain way? Do they feel that they're lacking in certain areas?
Aging.
That is the main.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the most common thing that we see, absolutely. And it's for females, aging, I think a lot of them, us, I should say, because I feel I'm included now. It's not even like, it's just you go from being a young woman who's noticed to someone who just becomes, people report feeling invisible. And I don't quite feel invisible yet, but I know where they're getting at, because you basically you're just not noticed as much. So I suppose we're always just wanting to be noticed, and just be seen and feel that we look the best that we can look.
But I also, from like a aging point of view, menopause happens to a woman really around 45. The perimenopause will start, so you get that 10 years of where your estrogen, progesterone is plummeting, and that's when your collagen plummets. So literally, that's when most of women come in and ask about filler.
Right.
Anti-wrinkle, they've come and seen us prior, but I think the filler question starts around sort of mid-40s, 40s, where they're like, I think something's going on, and you're like, yo, perimenopausal.
Yeah. And that would make sense. So that would strike me as the main reason for the filler, or to like get it to that level, to, like you said, because we're anti-aging, right? We all want to sort of get to a point. We all have this age in our mind, or what a look, and we go, right, that's enough. I'll stop here, thank you. You know, I'll just not age anymore. Hence probably the fascination with vampires. But there's also this younger crowd coming in, and they're like even more maybe going in different directions. So for what do you think their reasons are?
The rise of Instagram.
It's the gram. It's all for the gram.
It's all about the gram.
And I mean, it's a fact. Like, we're also used to seeing ourselves with a filter, and we love the way we look with a filter. So we want to look like that in real life, or as close to that in real life as we can.
Right. And for you personally, do you feel the pressure to look as, because as a man, for me, and this is only my opinion, but sometimes I see women where I think, wow, like, that looks kind of scary. It looks borderline scary. Like you said, and it's usually a side profile, or maybe they're not aware of it. Or I've spoken to said women, and a lot of guys are like, oh, she's you know, she'll be this, she'll be this, she'll be this. And I'm like, actually, half the time, I find that most of those women are really insecure, and they're actually, it's a mask. Physically, mentally, and it's almost like they're trying to cover up or make up for something. There are women out there who maybe just want more attention, like you said, but that is my opinion as a male. But as females, on the opposite side, do you feel the and I know, like, you've got families and whatnot, and perhaps you grew up in a time where, and like I did, Instagram wasn't the
The olden days.
We're not teenagers, guys, is what we're saying. But do you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in an era where I remember when my mum bought the mobile phone, she went, that's for emergencies, don't touch it. It was black and white, and all you could do was play Snake on it, right?
Snake.
Remember that? That was it. And now they're grown up. Like, kids are grown up with, and I'm not having to go at technology because it's, you know, it's good and bad. It's like anything, it's how you use it. But, you know, kids they're subjected to this, and I have a lot of friends who have young daughters, and, you know, they're bringing them up, male and female, and I ask them, and I'm like, how do you feel as a parent, like, bringing your, you know, kids up in this era? How do you feel like you're going to somehow not protect them, but how are you going to go about that? Because I feel like a lot of young people are led astray, and it's not their fault. Because if you are put in an environment, like if I say to you, hey, you grew up, and I say, you believe in blue, it's blue, 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 you're going to think it's blue.
Yeah.
But then someone comes along and goes, hey, have you heard about red? And you're like, no, it's blue. I'm just using it.
I really think it's a family-led thing along with the school. I think both have to align and have the same values around how to bring up young people now with social media. It's a can of worms, and my kids are really young, so I'm nowhere near there. But I think empowering your kids, but also not exposing them too young. It's hard. It's tough. I'll let you know when my kids are 13.
Yeah.
I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm nowhere near there yet. But yeah, I think from an injectable point of view, ethically I wouldn't inject even like an 18-year-old girl's lips. She's still a baby.
Yeah. And a lot of women are beautiful as they are, but they don't see it.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen women who are beautiful, and then they go and do it, and again, I will say my opinion, because it is only my opinion, but I'm like, wow, you ruined it. Like, you were actually gorgeous. You didn't need any of it, and now you look like something that's not quite real or on a movie set.
But that's, I mean, I've certainly gone down that path with my face when I first started injecting, and I over-injected my face, and all my friends and all my family said to me, what have you done? You look stupid.
You know what, though? Maybe it's good that you had those people that could actually say that to you, though, respectfully, and you would actually go, oh, you know what, maybe I have done too bad. Maybe it was a novelty.
Yeah.
Like
you start to look like a cartoon character.
Yeah. How did you feel, though, when you did it, though? At the time, did you feel like more confident?
Well,
did you feel like more prowess?
Well, I think the trend now back then, the trend now has changed. The trend then was to over-inject because it was kind of like a status thing. Whereas now, because injectables you can get it on any corner of the street, you can really, and the prices have dropped dramatically. The over-injected look is really passé. Like, it's out. trend now is to have a bit of a crow's feet, to have a little bit of movement and to be a little bit softer, and the products are reflecting that too.
Right. So
So
there
I
are
think the
there are trends very much in this
dosing
space,
is
in the
different
science
now,
and the look.
yeah.
I guess that would make sense in alignment to everything else, like fashion, the way it sort of comes
Yeah.
in and out and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add there, Kate?
No, not really.
Just standing there with your fake needle. It was for the thumbnail, guys. It's fine. She's not actually gonna. She's like. I want to ask you this as well. What, and this is to both of you. What is the most challenging? I want to know the most challenging thing about what you do, and I want to know the most enjoyable thing about what you do, or rewarding, however you want to word it.
Most challenging thing. I think the most challenging thing is just exactly what we've been discussing. Expectations of clients. So a huge number of them are very reasonable, but then of course, there's those that aren't and that have very unrealistic expectations. That's one of the more challenging things I would think. And like any role where you're working with people, occasionally you find like you come across people that just aren't terribly pleasant. So that's probably one of the most challenging things. What do you think?
Yeah, I
Right?
think that's pretty
Yeah.
much spot on.
And
that also just some people feel that one treatment is going to give them a
Revolution.
facelift
yeah.
when
Yeah.
these products can't give facelifts. They're completely different. Surgery is surgery, and non-surgical is non-surgical. We're in completely different lanes.
Very often when we're doing consultations, it's obvious that a person has unrealistic expectations. But I think over the years, there's a couple of times where I've been blindsided by people who've come back, with what turned out to be very unrealistic expectations. And I would say that's probably most of my low points in my career are those type of clients when I think back.
But you learn quickly.
Yeah.
You learn the red flags very quickly.
Yeah.
And is that where you would set higher expectations more clearly, or turn a customer away?
Turn them away.
Either or, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not the right people.
Yeah, I can completely relate.
Relate to that,
I think setting expectations is absolutely
life, yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
Because especially we both work in the realms, technically, if we want to zoom out, is aesthetics. People come to us for a look and a feel. All right, that's literally it. No one comes for a number. They don't want 10 mil in my face. People go, I want 5% body fat. I'm like, you don't. You want to look a certain way, right?
Yeah, for $1.
Exactly. And then there's those people who want it for nothing, right? Want nothing for nothing.
For a discount.
Or I'll give you this, or they want to barter. But yeah, I think by setting expectations early on, you can avoid going down the path of maybe even having that, and it's just not worth it in the business.
Correct, yeah.
Understandable. So conversally, the most enjoyable thing.
There's lots of them.
Good.
Thankfully,
I love it. Is there any standouts?
We're probably going to say the same thing. Just making people feel better about themselves. Like you can't put a price. That's just priceless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
seeing them coming back and sharing with their friends, because I feel that there's still a taboo that people don't really want to talk about it. But then when they're bringing their friends and family in, and they're like, "You should get this. I'm having.
Yeah.
It's making me feel good. I want you to feel that way too."
Right.
I
do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
It's like that word of mouth. It's contagious.
Yeah.
So this is probably an appropriate question to ask for people listening now. So they're sort of formulating this, and I know there's so many other avenues and things we could talk about. But for people maybe sitting on the fence, or they've been considering it and they're a bit unsure, apart from obviously the education you've provided in this episode today, what advice would you give, or what would you want that person to hear?
I think it's just so important to find like a practitioner that you're comfortable with. So your listeners may be from all over the world, so feel free to fly to Gold Coast and come to that face place. But if you can't make it here, find someone local that you just click with and that has the same vision as you do. So probably very similar to what you do, Alex. You need to both be on the same page.
They've got the right qualifications.
Yep.
They've got a minimum of at least, I'd say, 5 years injecting experience. And and that they're personable, and that you feel like you can come back to them and ask them questions, and like you can build rapport with, because it is quite a personal treatment. It's not like getting your nails done. It's your face. It's important.
It is. It's one of the most intimate areas, right? And
Yeah.
when someone's close and prodding and changing, you definitely want to have that trust. So that makes
100%.
sense. I really
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Before we digress into my rapid fire questions that I ask all my guests, they're a bit more fun and light-hearted in nature.
Love fun. I love that.
Can't
Yeah. I want to open the floor up to you, ladies, and perhaps to kind of swerve my ignorance of, is there anything that you would love to talk about that you think that maybe we've missed today, or things that you'd really like to sort of get out there as messages, or anything that you'd like to say to the audience that you feel is important, or, you know, caveats or information, anything you're particularly passionate about?
I think we've kind of, like, I think we've just, I hope we've sort of just I guess, just for us as women who've been, I guess, in this industry for a while now, I suppose I just always like to hammer home how important experience is. So you're just seeing more and more Instagram pages pop up, you know, I guess, yeah, I just recommend that everyone
research.
does their research. It's just not experience matters, that's all.
You do. You learn from your
Yeah.
mistakes as an injector. Like,
And I sometimes feel frustrated that the public doesn't appreciate more the value of someone that has experience in this industry.
Now, I get what you're saying there. It's true.
And you can relate, yeah.
Well, no, but it's an industry where, you know, there was an analogy me and my friend spoke about one time. It's an example, and it perfectly, well, I hope, gets this point across. He goes, right, you're sitting in hospital, you've got this major surgery coming up, whatever it is. Would you rather a surgeon come in who's like really young, really young, right? He's clean, sharp, clean cut, boom, he's got a steady hand. Or would you rather a guy come in who's a lot older, but he's a bit shaky, maybe, you don't know, he still seems sharp, but maybe he's a bit, you know, and there's these obviously ends of the spectrum. And it basically plays on the whole experience versus youth. But you need this amalgamation, right? You
Yeah.
need this combination of, yes, practical hands-on skill and knowledge, and certain industries require a certain amount of time. It's like anything. I asked my anatomy and physiology teacher when I was studying in New Zealand all those years ago, I said, hey, if I wanted to be a plastic surgeon, how many years from now, right now, degree, cutting someone's face open? Very vulgar, I know. And he goes, 12 years. I said, what? He goes, 12 years before you, and this might be wrong, right? So just don't quote me. He goes, before you, on your own, would facilitate that surgery and open someone up. And I'm like, wow. And I actually asked him like the procedures, and he goes, you practice on like fake skin and hide, and then you'd assist, and it's just so many hours. And if you think about that, is the level of risk. So the level of risk of the job usually depicts the qualification, the experience, and the time needed. So to kind of reinforce what you were saying, I think it's correct where, yes, all right, you might be able to learn the science fairly quickly, but there needs to be a certain amount of time. It's the same in my industry where I just don't think there is enough, and the industry standard needs to be raised,
Yes.
and there needs to be someone bridging the gap and facilitating, hey, maybe you shadow someone, or maybe there's something where you do more practical because you learn by doing, and I feel like that's a bit of a gap. So
Well, Kate and I talked about this many times before, that yes, you have to be a registered nurse or a doctor, but there's no barrier to entry to be an injector. So anyone can just pop up around the corner and start injecting Botox that has little to no.
quite scary.
So there needs to be a barrier to entry. There needs to be like perhaps another course or a degree or something that qualifies you. And nurses that we get contacted all the time, you know, are nurses wanting to be injectors, and that they want us to train them because there's a lack in the industry for that avenue to get in.
Yeah.
So it's a strange one.
So on to the rapid fire questions, ladies, a bit more light-hearted. My first one is one that I ask all my guests, most of my guests, pretty much all of them. It's a fun one. It is, if you could choose a superpower, what would it be and why?
To be invisible.
Why? Sneaky get.
Because you can, if you're invisible, you can drop into any conversation,
Oh, here we go.
learn everything that you want to learn,
Yeah.
be privy. I mean, you could know the next lotto numbers. Love that.
So you, just imagine you there now,
How would
right?
you know that from
Because
being
you'd be
invisible?
invisible, go to the lotto.
Where's that?
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
Just you like taking the cloak off. Right, I'm gonna climb these ladders and bust through all the shit.
I think I think my one
chose
is
diffusion.
I think my one's what Zoe meant to be a mind reader.
Okay,
Because if you can read
That was
minds.
Shape, or the one where you like not shapeshift, but you know that no, what's that one? Nightwish on X-Men where you like when he can like be in a room and stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to read minds.
Right, so yours is mind reading as well.
Yeah, mind reading. Yeah, invisible mind reading.
Right, so you
Makes
ladies
sense.
just want information.
Oh, it's late now. It's nearly my bedtime.
If you asked me in the morning, I would have said flight, but
Flying would also be cool.
Yeah.
I feel like that's everyone's go-to, and it would be cool, right?
But mind reading would be very. I mean, just imagine, like,
Yeah,
Imagine.
that would be epic.
Oh, but then, like the dynamics of life, it would fuck it up, right?
Absolutely.
Because you'd be like, oh my
It'd be
god.
too much negativity.
Yeah.
Oh,
It'd
and
be
even
good
just
mind
knowing
all
things
of them
that
are a
you
double-edged sword.
don't
All of them.
know.
Yeah.
They are,
They're
aren't
a
they?
double-edged sword. Yeah, absolutely.
They literally are.
I'll just stay immortal. I'll stay a mere mortal. Yeah.
We can, yes, until we fix that one. We're not there yet. The anti-aging thing, are we? I want to ask a different one, and it is funniest moments like in this industry. And I know sometimes it's not laughable, but I want to know what comes to mind. Like you're like, you know what, that was funny as shit. Where maybe you've looked back, you've both had a laugh, or you've done something, seen something, and you're like, okay, that's pretty funny. Like laugh out loud moments.
In our industry.
Yes.
I think it's
From whatever you can share confidentially.
wow.
Have you had anything, where like, for example, in my industry, I used to coach a lady who worked in the nursery. And anyway, Kim was coaching her one day. I said, hey, how you doing? Yeah, Kim. She said, yeah, really good. I said, cool, so how was your day? She goes, oh, Alex, I had to have a difficult conversation with one of the parents today. I said, what happened? She goes, well, one of the kids brought a toy in. I said, what do you mean? You already know. And I said, what do you mean a toy? She goes, a big dildo. And I said, oh, that's not good. I said, oh, no one saw it. It's a kid. She goes, no. She goes, she's playing with it with all the kids. Thought it was a rocket. I was like, oh. So she goes, but I felt really bad because she was very into it. She goes, a parent come on. She goes, look, that kid just brought this in. She said, could you not put it in arm's reach, And I just always look back and I thought that was pretty funny because it was just like pretty classic, It's like, I know it's like a kind of maybe a bit of a stereotype, but it's true. So I don't know if you've got any like.
I think some funny things is like when we like perhaps bruise a client, how we like think of an excuse to get it past the husband, or because she doesn't tell the husband she gets injectables, and conjuring up bruising stories on how it happened. I don't know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I recently had one that had some fat dissolving injections under her chin, and she like told the partner she'd been bitten by a spider, and he believed it. Like that was a good one.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, as men, we're so naive.
Oh, yeah.
Anything for beauty, isn't it? Vanity wins all.
Spider bit her.
Spider bit her, yeah.
Well, we are in Australia, very appropriate. There's a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of them
right.
around here.
There
which is
are.
true. My next one is quite appropriate to the current situation we find ourselves in. The C word, which we won't say. So my question is, if you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow, where would it be and why? You can have your family, you can have anything. What would it be? Like, where would you go?
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Go on.
Burleigh, Gold Coast.
Burleigh heads, man, Burleigh.
Burleigh.
It's the place to be, guys. The place to be seen. You've got to have a little hat on as well. It's one of those little hats. I got one of them, so I felt like I fit in.
Kate might go somewhere a little bit more
Exotic.
than your
I was going to say exactly. I could
well,
see
mine
Kate
would
in
have to
somewhere
be
like
mine would
the
have to be
Maldives
Cuba.
or something.
I'd have to say I'd wake up, and that's because my husband is in Cuba and he hasn't seen his family in almost 3.5 years now, and they haven't met our baby. So mine would be Cuba with his family. Yeah.
You didn't meet your husband in Sydney, did you?
No, I met him in Cuba.
Oh, you did actually meet him in Cuba.
Yeah.
I'm just connecting dots here.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm doing. Yeah, cool. I might know your husband, that's all.
Oh,
Good guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, if it is the person I'm thinking of. But my last one is for all the people out there who are just into health and fitness and just food. If you had one last meal, what would it be? Or even better, what's the one food you can't say no to?
Okay. I'm definitely going to say bug roll from Rick Shaw's.
Kate's like, there's so many options.
I don't
Like
know,
she's
it's
going
really
through. She's salivating.
you know what? It wouldn't be. It'd be a cocktail. Like I'd be drinking margarita.
With the Rick Shaw's bug roll. We'll go have it
It'd be a
together.
margarita for sure.
Margarita.
Yeah. I genuinely would choose like cocktails over food. Although I mean, food's good, but have you ever had a margarita?
Yes.
Like a really well made one, spicy margarita.
Yeah,
right,
or
okay.
a coconut one.
Oh
you
yeah.
guys went to Margarita Cartel?
No, I
Where's
haven't. It's on. That's the one on like lower near Light Years.
Oh, yeah.
No, I've not
We
been. It's
all
good.
ordered. I'll show you at the end. We
Oh,
all
that's
ordered
amazing.
different colours.
Oh,
Good.
yum.
It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, if you
yeah,
like
that's
margaritas.
right up my alley. Yeah.
Great
We
food.
might have to do a half yearly Christmas in July.
Yeah.
TFP.
Oh, any excuse.
Yeah.
Any excuse.
Love that
Just
stuff.
go.
Yeah.
And the last question
Oh.
that I ask all my guests is a bit more serious in nature, which is, could you both identify a fear in your life, what it was, or if you still got it, and what you have learned or what you're learning from it? And for example, and don't necessarily use this one, but like public speaking, or it could have been when you were first starting with a client injecting. It can be anything. It might be small, it might be big, but just a fear, what it is or what it was, and how you overcame it, what you learned from it. Or even it could be still current. You could still have this fear.
Mine's confronting conversations
Yeah?
and just learning to deal with it there and then,
Mm-hmm.
not let it pass and let it fester, but dealing with it there and then.
Nip it in the bud.
Yep,
Like it.
that's my thing.
And what is it fear? Oh, look. I think just like fear of failure, but with everything. But this business is a good instance. Like I guess there was just, I mean everything. Doesn't everyone have like fear of failure, fear of everything failing? I don't know how I've dealt with that. Just did it. Just got on with it and did it. I guess.
I think the first couple of weeks when the business was super new and there wasn't the influx of clients that Kate and I were used to, because we used to work for a franchise, there was that whole thought pattern of, oh, we made the right decision.
What if no
and,
one comes?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 6 months down the track, I think we're both really happy on what we've done and we're proud of each other. We've achieved a lot.
And
really.
I guess the tactic for that is just like taking it day at a time. Really, taking it day by day.
And have faith.
And have faith, correct. And
Have faith. I love it. I think that's a really appropriate way to round out what's been a thought-provoking conversation. Just have faith, guys. If that's all you get, take that.
have faith.
Literally.
That's right.
But ladies, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Alex.
being generous, because I know you've been at work helping people all day look beautiful, and I know you want to go home and knock a couple of margaritas.
Oh, I wish. Kate's making.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have to go to a Margarita Cartel and sample the goods on another occasion.
We should have done
some
our
food.
podcast there next time.
That can be arranged, ladies.
Next one.
It can be arranged. Now, for all the people watching, where can they find you? Plug the business, the social media handles. Obviously, they know the name, but go for it. Tell them where to go.
That Face Place AU is our Instagram handle and our Facebook handle. Yeah.
We're number 1/1093 Gold Coast Highway, Palm Beach.
There it
Yeah,
is, guys.
www.thatfaceplace.com.au.
that's it.
So get it in. Get it in. And of course, we will put all the links in the description below. So wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening, if you didn't quite get that on the screen or you didn't quite get it, you can just pop into the link in description. We've got a link, so you can just go straight there. Highly recommend coming down and seeing the beautiful ladies. They will look after you. They're very good. One of the reasons why I wanted to have a chat to them on the podcast, to share some education and create an awareness for all of you listeners. As always, guys, I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening. If you're on YouTube, I've got to say it, like, comment with anything that you've got positive, or if you've got any questions, maybe for Kate and Zoe, or perhaps there's some questions and you want to hear more, or you want a round two, let us know. Obviously, subscribe, guys. I know how many of you watch this. I appreciate all the new ones, but subscribe, hit that bell icon, and if it's safe to do so, one more thing, leave a rating and a review on iTunes or any platform that you're listening to, because it helps the channel grow and it helps more people get this education and get this knowledge out there. So guys, until next time, as always, stay fearless.